call to order the regular meeting for the City of Murfreesboro Board of Zoning Appeals for June 28th, 2023. First item on our agenda is a determination of a quorum with 4 of the 5 members of the board present. We do have a quorum today. The next item on our agenda was nominations and elections. That item is going to be deferred till next meeting, pending some City Council action on that. So we will defer that one and then move to the approval of the minutes from our May 24th, 2023 meeting. Those minutes were provided to the board members. Are there any necessary changes to those?
No, sir.
Hearing none, those will stand approved as written, and we'll move on to new business. We've got 3 special use permits today. The first one is application Z23026 by Ms. Maria Fernandez Emerth, requesting a special use permit to establish a home occupation, in this case a beauty and hair salon, on property zoned RS10, and this property is at 2407 Bennington Drive. Mr. Aguilera, if you'd review this application for us.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chair, and members of the Board of Zoning Appeals for being here today, as well as the members of the public. The applicant, Maria Fernandez, is requesting a special use permit to establish a 1-chair beauty and hair salon inside of her residence at 2407 Bennington Drive. The subject property is located in a single-family residential zoning district, RS10. Because her business will be generating traffic, of course, per the standards of the zoning ordinance, she is required to apply for a special use permit and before this board. The applicant will remodel the inside of her home for the proposed home-based business. The applicant states in her attached letter that she will have 1 customer at a time. There will be no employee besides herself, and the hours of operation will be from 11 a.m. until 7 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday. I'm going to scroll to the attachments here so you can visualize just the floor plan and what she is proposing. The applicant has again attached a letter per the request of staff on the specifics of the business that has been included in your staff report. This is kind of a rough sketch of what the inside of the interior will be. Again, she will have a 1-chair for her business, and it involve other types of other ancillary accessories for her business, such as a washing station, and then of course the existing heating and cooling element, as well as the couch. I'm going to scroll to the floor plan. You can see here the applicant has anticipated that there will be 3 to 5 customers per day. The approximate square footage of the house is 1,925, according to the Rutherford County Property Assessor's Office. The proposed salon will be approximately 342 square feet, or 17% of the residential floor area. As depicted in the rough elevation that we have and photos of the home, the applicant does intend to change out the exterior garage door, and by adding, we'll be adding a exterior window and exterior door for the business. This is where the clients will be entering into the proposed business, again, which will be 1 at a time per appointment only. Additionally, a small scissors sign not exceeding 3 square feet will be placed on the door of the new business. No other modifications are proposed with this business, with this home occupation request, and that the applicant is also fully aware of the permits that she will be required to apply, such as new plumbing, lighting, and flooring work that will be required to apply with building and codes. Per the standards of the general standards of applicability, staff did not find any issues with the proposed request. We did want to make sure, again, that she understood any new traffic that would be generated should be minimal, as to why we staff requested that she do an appointment only, 1 customer at a time, and made her present that the proposed operations will be 3 to 5 customers per day. Staff did verify the driveway, and she did input this as well on the measurements of the driveway to ensure that there will be adequate parking. It will be the actual driveway is around approximately 47 by 20 feet, which can accommodate 4 vehicles for parking for the clients. Beyond the additional standards of applicability, we did not find any other issues. There will be no disruption. Beyond that, there was no other types of natural or scenic features in the neighborhood that would be damaged with this request. For the additional standards for a home occupation, again, staff wanted to highlight that there will only be her operating in this home salon, and that there will be, again, a sign placed on the door that will be not exceeding 3 square feet. A sign just for of scissors, just for the home-based business. With the application, again, she did request, this is kind of what the interior of it looks like. They are requesting to do some remodeling work to accommodate that home occupation. None of it will really influence, again, the exterior beyond the new window and door that would be there. There are no anticipated additions for that. And again, she will not be exceeding the 25% floor area of the residential home. Again, the applicant understands that there will need to be permits applied for the mechanical or plumbing or electrical work, and that beyond that, though, that there will be no other heavy type of equipment beyond, such as the typical hair salon accessory uses, such as a washing station, hair dryer, and regular other hair cutting accessories. The applicant has confirmed as well that there will be no storage of outside storage of goods or materials or other types of merchandise associated with it, and will all be contained inside the interior. And again, in review of the application, staff believes that there will be adequate parking on site for the proposed traffic generated by the business. For this special use permit request for the home occupation, staff recommends approval because the special use permit standards and home occupation standards have been met, as mentioned above. Additionally, staff has noticed that should this application be approved, that the special use permit shall lapse upon the transfer of the property. That was one other key element that we wanted to include with the staff report. So in addition, staff recommends that if approved, the special use permit be conditionally approved in accordance with subsection 9, subsection B, conditions on special uses with the following conditions. And those, the following conditions have been included in the staff report for your review. We have gotten a few calls about this proposed special use regarding traffic and regarding just the type of work here. We have fielded them, and I'm sure maybe one or two of those individuals will be in the audience today, but we wanted to stress that again, this is a typical process we hear. This is a very common application that the board and staff has reviewed. We did take careful notice of the driveway, of the exterior remodeling that is to be done, and found it again consistent with these standards. If you have any questions, I am here as well. Ms. Maria Fernandez and her associate, Vicky, a friend, is here. There is a bit of a speaking barrier, so she will be utilizing Ms. Vicky to translate if there's anything here. I will also be here to translate as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff at this point? I think we'll let you off easy. Anything that the applicant would like to add? Ms. Fernandez, would you like to add any additional comments to what's been presented?
No.
All right. Thank you. At this time, we'll conduct a public hearing. If there's anyone present wishing to speak for or against this application, if you'd come forward and give us your name and address, and you can provide us any comments you may have. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and open the floor for any further discussion or motion.
So I just have a comment. I don't have a real issue with this application. However, it reminds me of an application we had probably 2 years ago that we approved, and I probably drive by it at least once every 2 weeks. And it's on Manson Pike. And it's the same kind of deal. They've got a big picture window. They've got the sign that's approved, but you can see everything that's going on inside, and it's a full-blown business. And I drive by that, and I'm like, I don't know that was our intent at all. And when we approve these in-home businesses, in my view, if I'm a neighbor in this neighborhood, I don't want it to look like a business. So I'm a little afraid of this window, and if it's going to be where you can see right in and see the chairs and the customer, and or is will there be drapes where you can't see in? Something that because when I go by that Manson Pike deal, it just like I don't know that that's what we foresaw as part of the application. So if somebody could address that for us.
Yes, Vicky, can you come up here and?
Hey, I'm Vicky, so I'm helping with translating. But so we talked about the window thing. So it is a small window that'll be. So va a estar en la parte de enfrente donde están la puerta del garaje. So it will be on the front part of the where the garage door is currently. So it will be on that side, but it is a smaller door window. And then there will be a door on the right-hand side, which is a regular sized door on that side, but the window is just a smaller window, just to allow light in, I guess you could say.
Okay. So, I mean, are people going to be able to see in through the street?
No,
No.
Okay. I would just say if I was a neighbor that I would have a problem with that.
No, tú puedes ir ahí si ese es un problema, no necesitamos poner.
And if
la
that's an
ventana, la
issue, then
ventana.
the window doesn't, it's not
It's not
something that
necessary.
has to be there. It was just, just allow natural
Right.
light in kind of thing. But if not, it could just be the door.
Again, I don't have a problem with the window. I just, the whole, if y'all could see what I was talking about, you would understand what I mean. So,
Okay. So I guess, no sé si. es- Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If it is a concern, this is why we did bring it up, because that it is consistent with some occupations we have seen where they have had a door, but they've included it on the side or anything. And so we asked them to include this. It's not required that they not have, of course, anything like that. But it is always something where we consider and review, and we bring to you all as the decision makers to see what do you think that impact would be and whether this is consistent with the standards. Obviously, we don't have design requirements, and if she was wanting to do a simple building permit application for something within their house, they could do so. But because, like you said, Mr. Halliburton, there is a component here we have to consider with the business. And so if you all would feel comfortable with any type of recommendation or guidance on that, we would hear that the applicant is willing to work to add any kind of necessary components or additional modifications to the request. So we would leave that all up to you if there's something that you would feel more appropriate.
yeah, I don't have a problem with the window, and if it's just a regular window that's 2 feet by 4 feet, it's just the appearance that this window that I'm talking about is probably 12 feet by, 10. I mean, it's floor to ceiling.
Storefront.
Yes, exactly. So, again, I don't have a problem with the application. I don't have a problem with the window. I would just hope that the applicant, that's not the component, that where people can see in, at least from the roadway.
Of course.
So,
We have gotten a few calls about how also this application is to be monitored. I think we usually get that regularly with some calls. How can we be sure that they are going to be abiding by that? We do have a zoning enforcement officer on staff, and so if we were to get a call, we would investigate that thoroughly like any other request. So if we see that there's something going beyond the original request, I think that is something that would be halted, that we would review further to make sure that it would be compliant.
Do you get many calls on any type of special use permit where it might be one we're hoping the property owner acts like what was in the application? Do you get many calls on any of those? I wonder how many people really know that there is recourse when some of these happen.
So I can say personally, I haven't gotten too many of them. Sometimes I think with staff, we have brought up a few of them in previous years that we have tasked our zoning enforcement officer to go out and check. But I haven't, in my time being here, I have not gotten one like that. Okay. Usually they're more associated when they actually come up, and then we ask them to address during our application process to address, signage, any additions or remodels to happen, and we make them make that information clear so you all can review that adequately.
Just curious, thank you.
Yeah.
Would it be helpful for us to say not exceeding a certain amount on a window in an application like this for enforcement officers, or?
I think that would help with that enforcement. If you all want to specify, if during that building permit process, if we want to specify a certain dimensions of window, we can do that, because then it would allow us to review that during the building permit phase and during the inspection phase to make sure they're not going beyond that. But if you find that suitable.
That
Yeah,
make
that-
you more comfortable to
that
say not
would.
exceed a certain
I just-
dimension?
yeah.
I don't know what a normal window
That's where
size
I was,
is.
yeah, I don't either. I don't want them where they're having to put in a special window.
A
Just
three,
basically a 3 foot by, 3 foot wide by 5 to 6 feet, is a standard window. Obviously you can have a double, a double sitting there, which is 6 by 5 or 6 or whatever, depending upon that particular height or measurement. But I guess a comment I would add here at this opportunity is that, if you take out, for example, that this is an application for a business, home business, and just said, I decided we wanted to convert our garage.
Absolutely.
I would be, aesthetically pleasing, as opposed to just having that, that flat replacement, if you will, of the garage door. You pretty much would want some type of aesthetics like windows for air and potentially a door for entry.
Right.
I think what Julie is pointing out here is that possibly if we set a maximum, even if you think about it, on the doors, if you just on its surface, you could say a door and a window is acceptable, but a person could actually put in a double glass door like you might see in some other, retail operations. So, I don't know whether this
Consistent with the.
It's consistent
the
with what we
aesthetics
do?
of the neighborhood? I mean, is there,
You could probably word something like installation of a residential typical window, residential door, consistent with the neighborhood. And that way it kind of preempts that it's not commercial size, not commercial looking.
right?
I think the Manson Pike, for those of us who were here during that time, really had a lot of struggles with getting them to comply and managing and working on corrections. And so it was pretty clear that those were commercial windows, which was never the intent, and nor did I think it was part of what was reviewed. But you can impose that type of condition on this project if you wish.
I'm fine with exactly what
Yeah.
Marina said.
And if we have anything else like this going forward, that would,
I'll make a motion, we approve with the comment with respects to what's in keeping with the neighborhood and a residential, I would call it single window, and a door that would be in keeping with a front door of a house in this neighborhood. I'll make that motion.
I would second that, and I'm assuming you want to add that as maybe item number 8 of the conditions of the
Yes,
approval.
that'd be great.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
so the motion does include the recommended conditions of approval.
Along with the other
and an
conditions of
additional
approval.
condition.
Yes.
By the staff, yes.
That was my own.
That's my intent,
I just,
yeah.
point of clarification.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? There are none, so that application's been approved. Appreciate everybody's help with that one. Next, we'll move to application Z23027 by Clyde Roundtree of Huddleston Steel Engineering on behalf of Veterans Plaza LLC. They're requesting a special use permit to operate a self-service storage facility on property zoned commercial fringe at 4560 Veteran Parkway. Mr. Barbie, if you'd review that for us.
Good afternoon, Chair. Chair Young and members of the BZA. The next application before you is for a special use permit for to operate a self-service storage facility at 4546 Veterans Parkway. The subject property is zoned commercial fringe. The commercial fringe zoning is meant to be a transition between a heavier use property like you would see in commercial highway district, such as the Kroger that's at the intersection of Veterans Parkway and Highway 96. And the less intense use that you'll see is in the residential subdivision to the north here that is the Cloister subdivision. This particular facility or this particular subject property has been previously approved for a self-service storage facility in 2016. However, they made some significant changes to this design since that original approval, and that's part of why it's back here before you today. The initial approval was for a 44,000 square foot multi-building facility that is your older style facility with the roll-up doors and that is not climate controlled. The revised application is for a single structure building that's climate controlled and has very minimum access points. There is an access along the western facade of the structure where most of the activity will go in and out of the building. Other items of interest on the site are going to be a Type D buffer that's along the northern perimeter of the property, and that's to provide some protection for the residents of the Cloister subdivision from light, noise, any type of debris that might get caught by the buffer and prevent it from going over into that residential subdivision area. They do have solid waste facilities on the property. It's on the southeastern corner where there is a dumpster enclosure, and there will be a dumpster installed for any type of solid waste that needs to be disposed of. Again, this additional facility is about 11,000 square feet larger in total. The initial one was 44,000. This one's coming in at about 55,000 square feet. Also includes some retail and office space in a future phase along the eastern portion of the property. Staff has reviewed the standards of general applicability and the additional standards that are required for operation of a self-service storage facility. We've reviewed those and find that they are satisfactorily meeting all of those requirements. We would recommend approval of this application, and if it were to be approved, we would request that any approval be made subject to all of the conditions listed in your staff report. I'm available if you have any questions, and I believe Mr. Roundtree is here as well.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Barbie?
So what's going on to the west?
Okay, this western portion here,
Yes.
this is a future phase that's not included as a part of the application
Okay.
today. That will be office and retail spaces. It's changed slightly from the original submittal, but it's still, the land use is still the same.
Okay. Which has not been developed.
It has not been developed. This parcel is vacant at the current time.
Okay. Thank you.
So the previous approval was for the same area of the vacant lot?
Yes, ma'am. The previous approval was for a 44,000 square foot multi-building, non-climate controlled facility. That's the older style that you typically see that has roll-up doors on each side, and it's not heated or cooled. This application is for a single one-story building that's about 11,000 square feet larger, and it does provide climate-controlled storage for the customers.
Is there a design picture in here?
Let's see if we've got building elevations.
How, so the to the north where the residential is, there looks like a driveway aisle and of course some screening. How far is that? If this appears to be over a one-story, how close is that two-story structure, or story and a half, to the neighbors that are closest, I guess?
Okay, I know the buffer width is 15 feet. I believe the access aisle, if it's a dual access aisle, it'll be 22. Clyde, do you recall the exact width? So you've got approximately, 37 to 40 feet.
I'm sorry, is that the height?
That's the lateral distance between the building and the
Distance.
property line.
What about the height of the building? I didn't catch
Clyde,
that.
do you know the height of your structure? I don't see it.
Top of it is 16 feet.
16 feet.
Could you address the lighting, especially the impact on the neighbors to the north? I know it says in the application here or in the comments, that no more than 0.5 foot candles of light beyond the property line, but could we talk about maybe the height of that lighting and maybe give us a layman's idea of how bright that is on those folks? That seems to be an issue sometimes with some of the applications we see.
Yes, sir. Clyde Roundtree with Huddleston Steel Engineering. Thanks for the chance to kind of walk through a little bit of this project with you. As far as the lighting's concerned, it's wall pack units, so they're mounted on the building. They basically are designed to basically have screens on them that shine a certain percentage, over the drivable surface. Because as Brad mentioned, we have basically a planting area in front of the building, then we have the 22-foot drive aisle, then we have the 15-foot buffer. The lighting objective is to basically get over the drive aisle. So there's about 15 feet of vegetated area that wouldn't be touched by light. You'll see lights because they definitely have a source to them, but they're designed to be directional.
But I guess a neighbor sitting in their backyard is not going to complain, should not complain. Maybe assumptions there.
Reason to complain.
But
I would say that the previously approved element had lighting as well, so we didn't really change the dynamic of the lighting. As was mentioned, there's very limited access on the side where the neighbors are. So, typically on these buildings, if there's an access door, there'd probably be lights specifically for that location where the door is. These would be more of your just security lights that basically cast light over the drive surfaces. So there'll be point light, but it won't be an airport kind of scenario at all. There's really no reason. It's primarily providing security and literally where the access points are, that's your point light.
okay.
I guess since there's not any request for any variances of setbacks or side setbacks or any of that, it's meeting the requirements. If I'm in lot 13, 14, or right there in the middle of that building on my back porch, I guess I'm kind of curious what the view shed looks like as he's looking out. Now, when you got a vacant piece of land in Rutherford County close to you, it's going to get developed at some point. So it's not always going to be, something's going to go there. But I guess 16 feet, that's similar to what a house would look like if you're sitting there. But is there much natural buffer currently through there?
There is, and that would be something we would work with staff on to try to, we've got the type D buffer called out. Typically in those scenarios, if there's an existing vegetative line that helps fulfill that requirement. There's some pretty substantial trees along the tree. We don't know exactly if they're on what piece of property they're on, but it's fairly dense right now, Davis, but we always say we're going to try to preserve all that. It's really based on grading. There's been a lot of work on the grading on this particular site. Mr. Huddleston's here if you have any specific questions, but there's some floodplain areas in the back, so we had to really navigate those grades, and we feel like a lot of the existing material can stay intact if we can kind of leverage that for the buffer as well.
And this is buffer and not fencing at this point.
Well, we've been asked to put a privacy fence in, but it's one of those kind of things where we don't want to take out existing trees to put the privacy fence in, so that may be offset off the property line. That's probably to be determined with staff as well. The trees it's a very mature tree line. It's not like a solid tree line, like an old hedgerow kind of thing, but they're substantial. There's 60-foot trees that are right on that property line, so we'd hate to see those get disturbed because of a fence, so we'll have to work around some existing material.
All right. Anything else for?
No, sir. Good.
Appreciate your information. At this time, we'll conduct a public hearing. Is there anyone present wishing to speak for or against this application? If you'd come forward, please. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and open the floor for any further discussion or a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move for approval of this special use permit, subject to conditions outlined by the staff in those compliance with those particular conditions.
Before I second it, I got a little lost on the fence. I heard that there's a discussion of having a fence, but then I heard there's not going to be a fence.
The last revision from the staff was that they recommended us put a privacy fence as one more level of protection. Typically, the storage units have containment around them, so there's, it's basically fenced-in property. It's just the property line, when you locate a fence, does it have to be on the property line? Can we inset it within that buffer area to kind of work with the existing material? That's the fence is going to come in, it's going to be there, but exactly the locations.
It might be
Okay.
next to the road instead of on the property.
It could, Julie, it
Okay.
could be on the top. There might be a place we can do it where it still serves the purpose of security as well as keeping cross,
Yeah, my
connectivity.
biggest thing was I thought I heard the fence is gone, and
No, we need to have the fence. It's just really where it's going to be
Okay.
located specifically.
All right.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And there are none, so that application's been approved. Appreciate everyone's help with that one as well. Next, we'll move to application Z23028 by Middle Tennessee Christian School, represented by Matt Taylor of SEC. They're requesting a special use permit to expand an institutional group assembly use for a preschool building addition, playground, and parking on property zoned RS15 at 100 East MTCS Road. Before I turn it over to Mr. Aguilera, I'm going to abstain from voting on this application. I had a son that's been in school there for many years, so I will help with the application, but will be abstaining from voting. So, Mr. Aguilera, if you'd proceed.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This last item that we have is a special use permit application for Middle Tennessee Christian School to expand an existing institutional group assembly for an early learning center, as well as some modifications to the parking lot and site improvements. This application is being represented by Mr. Matt Taylor of SEC, and as such, I have crafted a site plan for you all to review today to show the scope of work that is associated with the site improvements and the future ELC. That's something that we wanted to really highlight with this application, that this mainly is for the future ELC, but at the core of its request is the site improvements that is currently being proposed to allow for that future addition. Again, as such, they were required to come before the Board of Zoning Appeals again to expand this institutional group assembly. And per the attached site plan, the project is for a 16 square foot early learning center for future ELC, playground, and new parking lot modification and circulation. The ELC, the Early Learning Center, is located south of the existing elementary school building. As you can see again in the attached site plan that I have on the screen, this is the location of that addition for the future. The ELC will be an estimated 15 employees and will be approximately 16 feet in height. Additionally, the new playground with the playground equipment located behind it, just in this general area right here, will be proposed with it as well. New wall pack lighting is proposed with the addition and will not exceed 0.5 beyond the property line. We did receive a revised, that's why I'm not using the agenda package today for the site plan. We did receive a revised site plan to accommodate some of the calculations and comments requested by staff, so this is why you're seeing the new one. The staff report has incorrect parking calculations at the request of staff. We wanted them to do another parking count to make sure that we had correct parking calculations to go off of. So the correct parking count, as I'm going to read right now, the total existing parking is 231 spaces with 9 existing handicap spaces. Per the zoning ordinance chart 4, the use is part for the school, the high school addition that we did previously, and the proposed ELC. The total parking required is 292 parking spaces. Per the attached site plan that we're now seeing here, the parking spaces that are proposed are 60 spaces, with the bringing up to the total of 294 provided parking spaces, in addition to 2 new handicap parking spaces. The 294 spaces meet the parking requirements of Chart 4, and as such has no conflict with those minimum requirements. During staff's analysis with this application, the potential staff has anticipated, as well as the applicant, we have anticipated there will be some traffic impacts with the future ELC, but during this conversation, this is why the recommendation for the proposed drive aisle and these site modifications This is why they've been proposed to help with those queuing impacts and potential traffic impacts. However, this has generated the discussion and requirement for a traffic impact study, and staff has requested that they conduct one to accommodate any future recommendations with that traffic impact study. And as such, will be required to be implemented through the site plan review process. So we wanted to make sure that you all are aware of that. There will be generated a new generation of trips on site, and that a traffic impact study will be proposed. With this staff report, we also wanted to highlight again some of the previous approvals that were given through this. As you may recall, last year there were 2 applications made by MTCS. You can anticipate that there will be some future ones as well with this campus. In March of 23rd of 2022, the BZA approved the special use permit for a new high school addition, 47,000 square feet onto the existing gymnasium, as well as the parking lot modifications that were located here. Obviously, you have the new addition here. And again, some parking lot modifications here. They had a new plaza as well as those parking lot modifications. This plaza was to be used for staff, faculty, and students for that. So that's why it's being shown again here with this application, because we wanted to make sure that was accommodated. In July of 2022, there was another application that was submitted for the portables. Per the condition of approval for the MTCS portables, the 2 portables shall be removed in 24 months or of July 27, 2024. That was one condition that was discussed during that July 2022 application, and as such, we will be monitoring that during this process and for that expansion. As depicted on the master plan, you can see when those anticipated dates from the applicant are to be removed. There is one existing portable that it will be remaining, but will be removed when the early learning center construction begins. The applicable standards are listed below with the information from staff on how the applicant intends to address them. After reviewing the criteria for the special use requirements for institutional group assembly, the project appears to meet this criteria. Per the standards of general applicability, again, staff wanted to know a lot of the components that we discussed with the addition and the site work that is to be proposed. Again, there is anticipation with the traffic, new traffic generated from here and then on. With the ELC and site work, though, it is hoped by the applicant that this will help with the queuing impacts with this use. Beyond that, though, again, the traffic impact study that is required will be required with this site plan review process, and any recommendations for improvements will need to be implemented. There is proposed lighting with this addition, but again, will not exceed 0.5 beyond the property line, and parking does comply with the standards for minimum parking requirements per the zoning ordinance. The site has city services already. The proposed ELC will be served adequately by essential public facilities, as shown in the site plan, and again, will comply with the other additional standards for institutional group assembly. For the additional standards for institutional group assembly, the one thing that we wanted to highlight the most is, again, that parking will be contained on site. That was a very big condition of approval with the previous application for the high school addition. The applicant has assured staff that they will continue to manage parking on site, so there's not any impact to adjacent right-of-ways or residential properties in the area. Solid waste is still will continue to be handled via the existing dumpster located along the western portion of the property, alongside the western side of the elementary school. Staff has confirmed that there are no plans as of right now to modify or move this dumpster, so that, again, they will continue to utilize that existing location. There are no new recreational fields proposed with this use. That is one component and one standard of the additional standards for institutional group assembly. But there is no recreational fields proposed with this application, only the new playground area for the proposed early learning center. Per standard number 7 regarding the description of the use, again, this will be for a future early learning center, approximately 16,000 square feet, as well as the addition for a playground, a new parking lot, modification to the drive aisle. The applicant has stated that circulation will be handled with the new drive aisle, and queuing will be handled with that, and that, of course, the traffic impact study will be generated for this use. For the special use permit requested to expand the existing institutional group assembly, staff recommends approval because the special use permit standards for the institutional group assembly have been met, and staff recommends that if approved, that it be conditionally approved in accordance with Section 9, subsection B. Those following conditions have been listed in your staff report, and I will bring them back up here on the screen again for you all to review that. As highlighted in the conditions of approval, there is a couple of conditions to note of, again, with the traffic impact study, as well as making sure that they, again, provide adequate parking, and that, that the applicant shall record a final plat to consolidate the two lots. This will be impacting this adjacent lot right here. You can see the property lines right here that are kind of going around this area. They will be required to record a final plat so they can consolidate the two lots to commence that work. I'm here for any questions. If you have any, Matt Taylor of SCC is here as well.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for staff at this point?
Yes, sir. Regarding the traffic impact study, you indicated that in 2022, the high school edition was approved subject to that. Has that study been completed?
Yes, it has been completed, and Matt Taylor can talk a little bit more about that.
Thank you. Matt Taylor of SCC. We've actually completed 2 or 3 different traffic studies. We did one that was specific to the high school, and then whenever the ELC came back up, we completed a second one. The second one had probably more to do with the on-site circulation and analyzing that to help staff see how this project was going to help that to really get the queuing off of East MTCS Road that you currently see going on there today. And so both of those have been submitted and reviewed by the traffic engineering department already.
Yeah, I guess my curiosity is how much more impact does this application, as well as the high school, have on Memorial and or, by extension, I guess, Dover, if Dover is actually utilized by the school for ingress and egress?
So we actually, with these improvements, we think it's going to help and diminish the impact on Memorial Boulevard, and I'll tell you why. So in the mornings, pickup and drop off can either occur through Dover, if y'all can show, can y'all see that?
Yes.
Okay. And so it can occur either off of Dover, like this, or it can occur off Memorial, because you don't have the stacking in the morning. People are just purely pulling up, dropping off, and leaving. So you don't have the same sort of queuing issues that you have in the afternoon. And so that was the afternoon of the elementary school and the middle school were our primary focuses in our queuing analysis. And so, today, elementary school, really the only place they have to queue is approximately that blue line. Mm-hmm. What we're creating with this application is giving them the opportunity to queue all the way through here. And so I hadn't done necessarily a linear footage. I would say that's near triple. And so, and furthermore, operationally, we're not going to allow people to enter that entrance right there in the afternoons. They can use it in the mornings because we don't have the same issues in the morning, but the afternoons, they're not going to be allowed to utilize that because we're not going to let them start to impact East MTCS. The middle school and the high school, really it's more middle school. You don't have people really sitting there picking up for the high school for the most part, or at least it's greatly diminished. And so that is our primary pickup for the middle school. And so what we have outlined to the school operationally is that on site, this needs to be the drop off and pickup pattern where they queue on site, and then they will have to kind of police themselves that on-site intersection to make sure it's not blocked. So again, it does not impact East MTCS Road.
And then by extension, Memorial.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
But this, I guess the South Side Road doesn't exist right now. It's labeled as proposed drive. And
Yes, ma'am. So this connection right here is here today.
Okay.
It's not necessarily shaped like that. That's part of the high school work that they're reshaping, but all of this work is proposed. It is not there today.
Okay.
And that really the site work is going to be the first thing that's going to be done, as Mr. Aguilera said. The ELC, they're still raising funds for the ELC. They have the funds for the site work, and we know those need to be done even if the ELC never moves over here. Not that that's not going to happen, but this needs to be done to help the queuing on MTCS Road regardless. And so we want to go ahead and get that underway. We've got a site contractor on site for the high school, and so that's kind of the reason for the timing, is he wants to move straight into doing these improvements. I think our site contractor actually has a child at the school as well, so.
What's the head count coming, that would be potentially coming from the Early Learning Center?
About 100 kids.
Okay.
And I think there's a lot of overlap between those and the existing children at the elementary and middle school today too, so.
Like siblings and.
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
And it's currently on the opposite side of Memorial.
Yes, ma'am. It's on the, I think that's called West MTCS. I could be wrong about that.
I think so.
And so.
Also poses traffic concerns.
It does, and so it has a lot of cross traffic today, I think, from parents going between the two. This would get them all on one campus. So.
Any other questions for Mr. Taylor?
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. This time we'll conduct a public hearing. If there's anyone present wishing to speak for or against this application, if you'd come forward. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and open the floor for any further discussion or motion.
I'll move to approve, subject to the conditions set by the staff.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That application's approved. One abstention. Appreciate everybody's time. Next, we'll move to staff reports and other business.
One quick item, just to make y'all aware of. The Tennessee legislature recently passed a statute regarding public comment periods at the beginning of meetings. So the city council at the June 15th meeting enacted a policy for how those will proceed for each different type of body here at the city, which would include the BZA. We'll give you all some more information about that when we get closer to our next meeting, because it goes into effect July 1. Just want to make y'all aware of that, and also let y'all know this board is uniquely positioned where it's probably going to have the least impact, because one of the key policy points in our policy is that we recommend that if somebody has comments for an item that has a public hearing attached to it, that their comments be given during the public hearing and not given during this new public comment session. So since practically everything you do has a public hearing attached to it, this probably will not have a great effect on you, but it is out there, and we'll be getting you some more information on it before the next meeting.
And you may not be able to answer this, but so can they come and speak about anything?
No, it has to be about one of the action items that's on the agenda for that meeting.
Okay. So to your point, that if somebody wanted to come, if we set up this meeting that's 15 minutes early or for a comment or whatever time frame, is the chair going to be in a position to say, you need to bring that up at the public hearing or not?
Yes, the way the policy is written, it's in the chair's discretion. There are really two items in the chair's discretion. One is to ask. I think the language is ask, but not require that those comments be given for the specific public hearing. But like I said, I think there's no enforcement mechanism for that if somebody did want to get up and give comments that are germane to that agenda item. But generally, we're trying to keep people from having two bites at the same apple.
And then I was reading an article in the paper specifically the county addressing this same issue, but it looked like that the comments that were going to be made as part of this public time were not part of the record. Is that the case?
I don't know that we have clarification completely yet on how that's going to be. My guess is that they will not become that they will not form part of the record and not be included in the minutes. However, I believe we probably will have a mechanism for them to at least be recorded.
Because my point would be, if they're not part of the record, then in my view, this is an opinion, and you know how far that goes, then in my view, we should not consider the comments as part of our decision-making on the item in question, because there's no record, it's not part of the meeting itself.
Well,
Does that mean?
I mean, that's why they would have to be part of the
That's
agenda
what
item.
I'm saying, so, that, to me, needs to be made public, that whatever comments that you make during this portion of the agenda, if you so choose, are not going to be,
They couldn't be taken into consideration.
that's
as part of
correct.
the-
That's my,
Or do we have to kick them into, I guess that's a question for you to decide.
Yes, and we can have that answer before the July
Okay.
meeting.
Do we have to take those into consideration with regard to agenda items, or do we only take into consideration the public hearings attached to our agenda items?
that's exactly where I was going.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think, again, that applies more uniquely to this body because your decisions are based on the record that's before you.
Yes.
Which, again, I think is why, as a default rule, we're trying to push people more into speaking at the public hearing and not using that initial public comment time.
Well, and we can't take into considerations things that aren't a part of the agenda item that if we receive anything else, you know, we would have to announce that. And so how do we approach something like this?
Right.
Are we going to have a time at every meeting that we open that up and that we have to wait on, or?
No, well, the way it'll work is there can be up to 15 minutes. It's a 15-minute reserve period that the chair can extend for up to an additional 15 minutes in order to account for, you know, opposing viewpoints and things like that. But with this public comment period, people have to sign up ahead of time.
Okay.
They have to sign up at least 6 hours before a meeting, which for all intents and purposes means they have to sign up by 4:30 the day before
Right.
for this body. And if no one signs up, then we bypass that public comment period. I think it's a 3-minute time slot per speaker. So again, if we have, you know, 2 speakers, then it's only a 6-minute period.
Gotcha.
Do you have a feel for which boards are going to be most impacted by this? Are able to say?
I mean, it's purely speculation. I would say the city council is probably going to be the most affected by
Sure.
it. Like I said, I think this body, you have so many public hearings already, it's probably going to have relatively little impact on you. Planning Commission, they have they're probably about half and half public hearings and non-hearing items, so they could have some impact.
Purely just a scheduling question. Is this going to be, and I'll speak for Planning Commission as well as BZA, is this time before or after the meeting?
It happens at the beginning of the meeting.
So it would still be an established time of 1 p.m. or 6 p.m. It
Yes.
would just be the first 15 minutes of that time frame.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd probably be the first agenda item after the call to order.
I'm with you.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else?
Yeah. So, based on what Ken said earlier.
Almost hammered.
Well,
Almost
that's why I stepped in it. Based on what Mr. Halliburton brought up with regard to that first application, is this something that we should entertain, or at least is there a need maybe to direct the staff when considering home occupation applications to include some standards or conditions about, I'll say, windows and doors instead of the technical fenestration or whatever, you know? So is that something that would make you, you know, based on your comfort level with that particular application, would?
Well, I mean, I guess, is there, right now, of course, that application, we said what we said.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that if we made the same sort of requirement, restriction, ask, that it would be enforceable
I think we did have
in the
this,
future.
we had this discussion with the applicant with, what is it going to look like? We were concerned that it would look commercial. What we could do is probably a better job of getting an elevation that shows accurately what that window and door would look like. They provided us a hand-drawn sketch, and maybe the best approach is, because it's really hard, windows vary, doors vary, is maybe having them provide something with more specificity that's part of your application agenda packet.
Yeah, that's what scared me, because if you go back to that and you look, it says door and window, and the window was 20 by 40, in my mind,
That's probably the better approach, rather than trying to come up with what is a typical standard.
Yeah.
Is actually show what you're going to put in, and then maybe it wasn't ready because of that to come to the BZA. So maybe we should have waited one more month, but no, we knew at the time when we were talking to them that you could, as a homeowner, come in and change your garage door out and put a wall and put in a window and put in a door, and we would never see it, regardless of what you're doing behind that garage door. You're only here because you're doing hair salon. Like if they wanted to do something that wasn't generating trips or customers, basically, we would never see it.
I agree, but I think it was worthy of discussing it, because you're looking, I think your intent is that you want it to look like a residence, even though it's an occupation, even though it's a business, right?
Correct.
And so therefore you want to have a little more aesthetics that's related more to residences than it is businesses going forward.
Good afternoon, board members. I think that the condition that you placed on the approval was entirely appropriate, because one of the standards that they have to meet is there shall be no alteration of the residential building which changes the character thereof as a dwelling. And so making sure that the structure, so we already have that codified. It's general, it leaves discretion to the board, but making sure that the structure does not, that it's not altered in such a manner so that it does not have the appearance of a dwelling. So I think that you already have the power to place those conditions to give you a comfort level that standard is being met.
And if we don't like it, we can ask for it to be sent back for you guys to get more information.
I'm sorry?
If we don't like what we see, we can ask for it to be sent back for the next.
Absolutely. I mean, you would have the power to defer it. You would have the power to condition approval on, or give it approval except for that one item to come back. If Ms. Rush and Mr. Aguilera had it submitted to them, they could bring it back as to come back to you. Or if you thought that there was no way that it could be made to still resemble a dwelling, then you could deny it as not meeting the standards. So a lot of options at your disposal.
For whatever future businesses come forward.
Yes, yes.
That's all I got.
Last chance.
Move adjourn.
Move to adjourn. I'll second.
You don't need
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Here's the
you.
gavel.
Aye.